guys, this is Cinti.
Dee.
Nice to meet you all. So we put this podcast or YouTube channel together because we felt like it's just so sad that sometimes what happens inside of a church building or in a congregation or generally in Christian churches, like people who are not in there, they don't really know what's going on and sometimes have lots of wrong ideas or get the ideas from just, movies or centuries old books. And the way we live and what we believe, sometimes I find out that it's very different from what people think. And we love it. We actually really love our life with God. And just wanted to give you guys an insight, give you a chance to ask your questions, just honest, sincere questions that you have, either about God or the Bible or Christianity, or why do Christians do the things they do? Why do they live the way they do? Or is this actually true or not true? I don't know, whatever you guys want to ask. So that's something that is our desire to do for this series. And this is Dee. We actually just met a little over a year ago.
Last summer, 2022.
Yeah, that's a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. So, Dee, would you say a few things about you, where you come from, and what brought you to Budapest? And
yeah, it's not really a long story, but I just feel like it wasn't something I chose to do. Like, people are like, you chose Hungary, and it's like, it really just God, kind of pointed me in the direction of coming here, which is like a story for another day that I can get into. But from the U.S., been pretty much in church my whole life, but I think I got to the point, for me specifically, where I was like, people in the secular world, I guess if you want to say, every typical people would say oh, I achieved this thing, you could do it too. Mm-hmm. But then it's most of my friends and myself are not achieving those things. Mm-hmm. Then I would see people at church that are oh, if you just believe in God, anything is possible. But I'm like, you're doing the same stuff as everyone else. You're not really achieving anything special. Mm. So for me, I got to the point where I was I want to see what it would look like to live a life of extreme faith, where it's not just, hey, I believe in myself, but then it's also not being religious, where it's just all of these routines and I got to do this and that and that and that and that. And I think that's what a lot of people see is just I have to be religious. I have to check all these boxes. And to me, I learned that it's more about how you live as a person. And so I think with every religion, I think even with Christianity, a lot of people will want to convert people into Christianity, and then they get upset when they don't convert because oh, you don't understand it. But if a Muslim comes up to them and wants them to do something, we'll say no, but we don't understand what they're trying to get us to do, mm-hmm. right? It's we have no idea what they believe in or their book or anything. So I think this will be good for people to ask those questions in a safe place. Obviously, if you go to church, most churches you can't really ask a question. You're not mm-hmm. raising your hand and asking a question. And then depending on the church you go, some pastors aren't going to have that long of a conversation with you after, and then you have to be willing to go up to them and ask the question, and then it can be embarrassing. And then if you ask most people in general, they're going to get offended, and it becomes this heated conversation. So I think it'll be a good way for people to ask the questions that they have, get answers, and then they can make the decision on what they want to do mm-hmm. afterwards.
Yeah, right. So actually, we would like to invite you guys to you can ask your questions even in the comment of this video, or we'll have a form where you can just put it there, even anonymously if you wish. It's not just we want to see your question answered, but it could be a question that maybe everyone wants to ask, but you're the brave one to raise it. So then we would just want to answer, but you're very welcome to even come on the program, even through a Zoom call or personally, and discuss it with us. And we are not sure we have an answer for everything. We are not superheroes.
I'm sure that we don't have an answer for everything.
Yeah, right, that's true, yeah. But we'll try our best, and we'll just answer from our experience and our knowledge, but that might be very helpful too. And we are very interested in you guys, like what you think, what's your experience, why you think that, and just help you to think, and also just share what we went through or what we experienced, how we encountered God and stuff like that. Yeah, so we're excited for this. And one of the things we were just discussing with Dee is, Christmas season is coming, and everyone is like, oh, I wish like this and that would happen. Or even for next year, how you make all those resolutions and just wishes also. And I come across people and they are like, oh, but you're a Christian, like you just have to do whatever God tells you, right? So, and then they are shocked that I'm happy and I'm living a life of dreams. Mm-hmm. I guess same with you, like even coming to Hungary, right? It's like a dream fulfilled. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting how what does God care about? What do you think? Like, does he care about like that we just fulfill all those things that he has written down, or does he care at all what's on our heart, what we wish to do, or how's that?
In my opinion, it's like God wants you to be happy, but you have to learn to live a life where your desires start aligning with what he wants. So for example, someone was telling me they're at the store and or like I forget, it was at a store or a restaurant or something, but there's like a mom and like a little kid, and the little kid wanted to just have like candy for breakfast. And then the mom obviously said no. So then the kid was like, oh, you hate me, you don't love me, you don't want me to be happy. Like, how can you be like a mom, but you don't want to take care of me? But like everyone else understands that like the kid just doesn't get it, that like actually that would be harmful for you if you just eat that every day. You're going to have cavities, your mouth is going to hurt, you're not going to be healthy, you're going to get fat, you're going to have high blood sugar, all this stuff. Yeah, right. So I think what the issue is like people don't know or don't learn to like align their desires with God, or they don't trust him enough. So like as a kid, you got to understand and believe that your parent knows better than you, and then eventually you start seeking what they want. Like, oh, my parent wants me to eat healthy, like I want to start doing that, or I want to start doing this stuff. So it's not about like, oh, I want to have a new car or a big house for Christmas, and then if I don't get it, God doesn't care. It's like, well, are you trying to understand what he wants? And maybe if you're not getting those things, that's not like the best thing for you.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm thinking now, even as a child, one of my dreams had almost always been that one day I'll go to like places where barely anyone goes, to the jungles, or like very unlikely places abroad, which I humanly thought it's not even possible for me to dream about that because of the financial situation of my family and all. But it was like a big dream. One day I'll go abroad to the jungle place and I'll do lots of good things for people. And I guess that's something that like God would like, that I would do good things. But like, would he care about you just going to Paris to propose your wife or something like that? Because I guess that's your story.
I think it depends on like what you're gonna do with it. So like just going to the jungle for the sake of going to jungle, God. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they're like, God cares about like growing his kingdom. So like if you're gonna do something that aligns with that, like obviously he cares about that. But just for the sake of doing stuff, it's not that he doesn't care, but it's probably not like the main priority. I think it's like humans, we think that we're like so important, and it's like if you step out and you look at this story, it's like you have like God, then you have angels, and you have all this other stuff going on, and it's kind of like if you are playing like a chess game. It's not that I don't care about these pieces, but my goal is to win the game.
Yeah, right.
So there might be a time where I got to put this piece here and that piece gets taken or something like that. Doesn't mean I don't care about it, but I'm worried more about like the overall like winning the thing. And I think people don't fully get that about God. So it's like if you're going to go to the jungle and you're going to do something, and maybe you were broke and hungry, and then you go and then you're going to share like, hey, I was broke and God allowed me to go, and you're going to share that story, that helps. Or you're going to do something there. But if you're just going to go and be rich and then be like, I'm self-made, I did all this on my own, like it's like, why would he probably doesn't care about that too much. That doesn't mean you can't accomplish it, but why would it just be his priority? Same with us in our lives. Like if you're a boss, you're not really too worried about like all the other stuff that they have going on. You're like, I'm trying to grow this, this company. So
yeah, and actually it's like exactly true about my life. The first time I went abroad was, I didn't know, but God's purpose was to actually like meet me there. I don't know why he needed to take me to Switzerland, to the mountains, but it's beautiful for sure. But that's where I first like really like personally encountered God. And then from there, almost every single trip that I had to all these exotic, amazing places were not just for fun. Some of them were, but mostly they were for these kind of missions, like where I did something for people, and I could see like that's God's main goal. Like actually, he's working out what he made me for, and it was like with every trip and every stepping out, it was more and more clear for me what God designed me for. And part of the design was that I'm interested in other cultures, interested in learning languages. I'm very flexible. I can adapt very easily to all sorts of circumstances and cultures. And he designed me like that. And therefore, he gave me the desire also to go to these places and meet these people and learn these languages, because he made me for that purpose. So that's so amazing also. I like some things are like, seems to be there from our childhood, like just somewhere there in our dreams or in our abilities, and other things when we come to Jesus and we are like, okay, I sign up, you be my leader, my king, you decide what I should do. Then he's not like, okay, so here's the list what you have to do, you have to be like this good person, and that. But he's like mostly in the business of fulfilling what he made us for, and then all these things get activated.
Right.
And of course in between and with that comes many other things too. Like I couldn't have done all of this if I really didn't trust him, if I didn't do things in the correct way, or if I just cared about taking all the photos and I don't know, showing off or something. All these things couldn't have been actually accomplished. Yeah, so it's very beautiful how he like puts those dreams there and then fulfills them when we are like willing to like walk with him.
I think like for me as like a business owner, I read like self-help books or business books, and you can read let's say if you read a book on like how to be a millionaire, right? So they might say, don't watch the news, right? Or don't go to bed like at 1 a.m. Don't party, don't do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And here's some things you can do. It's interesting because when we have like these books, we don't look at it as like rules. We look at it as like, man, this is going to help me achieve this thing. This is going to help me build a website. This is going to help me become a millionaire. And the reason they're telling me not to do these things because if I do those things, it's not going to help me reach that goal. But then when people think of the Bible, they just think of like rules. And it's like, it's not really rules. It's more like, this is how to live like a peaceful, fulfilling life. And the reason that there's things in there to do and to not do is to get you to there. So there's like, if you just don't get emotional about it and you think about the things that are in there, there's like a purpose. It's not just like don't kill people for no reason or don't commit adultery for no reason. Yeah. And it's not just, I think in general, it's not just about like, in a weird way, or you tell me what you think about this. It's not like the Bible is written to like one person. It's written in like general for like everyone. So in general, if everyone was allowed to do this, the world would be chaos. In general, if everyone did this, it would be chaos. But in general, if everyone did this, it would be good. So like these are the guidelines that you could read. So it's the same thing in business. It's like, well, maybe you can go to sleep at 1 a.m. and still achieve your goals. But in general, if everyone did that, it's going to be chaos. So this is what I'm telling you to do. But I think it's easy for us to just, and especially people that aren't believers, to think, oh, this is just going to be rules and my life is going to be terrible. And now I just have to focus on all these. But also, and people will probably ask this question, I think what I realize is that's what's different about Christianity is it's not about being able to check all those things off. And I think that's what the difference between Jesus is and not having it, because it's like you can just have your salvation through him and not have to like check all these things off, but then you still have the Bible as a reference of like, oh, okay, if I do these things, I'll probably be happier, not depressed, not have all this chaos in my life and stuff.
Yeah, it's very interesting when we see even what Jesus was saying and doing, because some people even look at him as like a reformist or someone who actually like eliminated religion, because he really upset the present religious people there, because it's some of his actions look like he really doesn't care. Like, come on, like Shabbat, Saturday, you're also like rigid about it, but like they were freaking out that he was like healing someone on Saturday. So he's like, that's insane. Like, don't you think that's God's dream for this person to like start walking again if he was lame, or start seeing if he was blind? Like, that's stupid. Like, that was like a weird like human application of those kind of rules. But then what he was doing on Saturdays, for example, which was the holy day for Jews, which God ordained that they would have this holy day, but he didn't give the exact details. But definitely he never wrote, don't heal a person on that day, but typically those religious people were not healing anyone. But then he's like, I'm fulfilling it actually. Like, this is what Saturday is really for, to set people free, to make them live again. But it doesn't mean like, okay, then Saturday is the only day I do it, or I don't know, like again making it to a human rule. But it was like looking into the depths of it, because other things he was like, well, everyone told you don't murder, don't do adultery, don't lie, things like that. And he's like, even if you think about it or you have anger in your heart, you're like already murdered in a way. So he was like taking it to like such a deep level where it's like, oh my goodness, if I even have like think angry about someone, I'm already like murdering someone. Yeah. But on the other hand, like he was hanging out with the drunkards and prostitutes and all, and he's like, that's not what corrupts you, or that's not like what you should avoid because you're so religious. It's like, love the people, like bring them, but then bring them to this level where you're willing to like examine your heart to the depths, because again, it doesn't serve you. Like if you're full of anger or you're sleeping around with everyone, will you achieve anything at the end of the day? And will the society work also? Yeah. So it's amazing to see that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I just want to encourage everyone also, like, God cares for the dreams you have. He cares, and he gives most of those dreams, because I mean, we all have some like just fantasies, you know, and things what we dream for because we want to look like the others, or we want to be better than them, or we think, I don't know, having that food or going to that country or having that house will make us happy. Those are different things. Like we can check the motives, but like things that are just deep in there, you never can forget. And it's like, we really wish one day I'll be able to do this, or this is what I want to do for others, or something like great dreams. Most of those, I would say, are from God, or the root of it. And he would really like resurrect and make it happen if you let him direct you. I don't know about you, like I know you grew up in the States, like in a way you never thought about leaving the States.
Most of the time, no.
Yeah, but did you have like dreams of going to Europe one day?
Oh.
Or not really?
No, when I was growing up in Indiana, like I grew up in a small city, just even thinking about leaving that city was like crazy. Like it's I was thinking about that the other day, like man, that was just like my life living in this little town. And I never would even, I mean, most people, I think back then in America, you're never thinking you would live in a different country, because it's like, why would you ever do that? Like everyone is like, this is the best country. There's 50 states to choose from. It's so amazing. Everywhere else is like third world country, you know? So it wasn't until I was like 20, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something like that even crossed my mind when people started posting videos on YouTube of how nice places, you know, actually are. But yeah, growing up, that was never like even like a thought.
But once you started thinking about it, like, have you ever like put it aside, like, this is not at all what God cares for, or this is not at all what I need to do. I just need to focus on, I don't know, having a job and paying my rent and stuff like that.
No, I never thought that. But I also, like, I never had the thought of, like, oh, I'm just traveling and I'm just here to, like, go see tourist sites and, like, just experience it myself and just make money and just, oh, I have this amazing life. It's like, whenever we're going to places, it's like, how can you impact people there? And then how can you share your story of going to these places to show the journey that highlights God in the process, that inspires other people. So it's not just like, hey, God wants me to travel, so I'm having fun and he wants me to be happy. It's like he's allowing us to travel, that way we can still highlight the things that he wants us to do. So that's how it was.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a huge blessing for me and us here in Hungary that you and your wife and daughter are here. It, even though you didn't come on missions or stuff like that, but you came here and you're doing your online business, which you could do from anywhere. But still God directed you and made it possible for you to live here and even just enjoy the environment. But it's a huge blessing for us too, because some of the things you guys bring and you have, just your experience, your knowledge, your way of doing things, and what you can contribute, it's a blessing for us. So that's also just so beautiful, like what's in the focus.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, not just traveling, there are so many other things that, like for you also, like to marry the person that God has for you. Like, why wouldn't he be interested in that? Why would he just try to, I don't know, force you to marry the good religious girl, or I don't know what he would have that kind of.
But I think the thing, like, people get confused is, like, it looks like God doesn't want you to be happy in the moment, because it's not exactly what you wanted. So a lot of people will be like, I feel like just a lot of people are not honest. It's like, oh, I have the most beautiful wife and the most. It's like, no, you don't. Like, we're not the most beautiful. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying, but that's just not the case. So
yeah.
I think for me, whenever we were dating, it wasn't the perfect situation. I know everyone likes to say that and post that, but there's certain things that might not be perfect about that person, or that maybe there's other things you admire in someone else. But for me at that time, like, we did have, like, we already had, like, a love for each other, but I wasn't sure if that was the person that I wanted to marry, because it's like, you know, there's other things, like, okay, well, people that don't know, it's like she had a kid at the time. It's like, there's other things I could be doing. Do I want to travel? Do I want to do this? But I feel like God was telling me multiple times, like, this is what I have planned for you. So it's like, you have to trust that God wants you to be happy, even though you might not understand at the moment. So some people are like, oh, well, I want to go to the jungle, but God is calling me to go to Switzerland. He doesn't want me to be happy. He does, but you just got to trust that that's what's going to make you happy. And so now, like, years later, it makes sense, all this stuff that we've done together, where it's like, man, if I would have married someone else, like, we would have never been able to, like, do those things. And the other things we, like, grew together to, like, appreciate together, and we grew. And it's like, without having that faith in the process, I would have ended up doing something totally different that wouldn't have got me to the places that I actually wanted, but this was the way he had designed. So I think that's where, like, the faith comes in. It's like, he wants you to be happy, but you have to trust that. It's like, your mom wants you to be happy, but right now you got to eat broccoli. Like, you don't like what it tastes like, but when you get older and you're not, like, your teeth aren't falling out and you are taller and healthier, then you're like,
then you'll be happy.
Yeah, then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, my friend that used to eat candy all the time, like, he's like 200 pounds or kilos or whatever, you know, if you would say, like, overweight, like, he has, like, his teeth are falling out, like, you understand later that, oh, they did care about me and this is what they wanted me to do. They didn't want me to just not do my homework and eat candy and, like, be lazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing. People are going to be like, oh, if I don't get these gifts for Christmas, like, God doesn't care about me. But it's like, he cares about you, but you just have to trust that, like, he has the plan of, like, what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, actually there's even a Bible portion which even compares the law, you know, all these rules, as like our teacher for as children. He says, this is your teacher, and when you come to maturity, this is not, like, it will not limit you anymore. But as a child, like, just what you said also, like, you need that structure, that framework, sometimes without understanding. Like, now we understand many things. Now we don't eat candy because we know it's wrong for us. We can resist the temptation for ourselves. But for the children, you can't explain everything. And the same way, like, when we don't really understand the things of God so much, or don't understand all the connections and the consequences of stuff, sometimes we just have to do it just because he said so.
Right, yeah.
And that's something that, like, now it's like very foreign from people, like, just because I said so. But yeah, I mean, if your kid would not do at 3 years old just what you say so, then she or he would do all sorts of stupid things, because you can't explain, you can't try to, like, make them motivated to do that, like, just have to do so. But it is for their interest. And yeah, that's a big thing. Like, do we trust God? And I guess it's like step by step. Like, the more you experience that what he asked you, or what he even limited you from, or what the door he opened for you, it's good for you, the more like, okay, yeah, I see it now. God really wanted my best. So it was good that I did what he said so, and then we are able to trust him with the next thing, and it like goes step by step. But if we kind of stop that, it's like kind of like kicking him out of the car from the steering wheel. Is like, okay, I want to take it back, or you know, from the other side, like, I want to drive, like, I want to decide things, I don't want you to decide. So it's a struggle, I guess, for all of us. It just gets easier the more you experience that he actually really cares, and he really knows the best more than we do. Like, how you know the best for your kid way more than she knows.
Right.
Most likely because you see the bigger picture, you understand so many more things you see ahead. So the same way, like, it's so good to just like, okay, God, I mean, this is all I like, these are the things I want, or I feel like, or I desire, but I let you decide, I let you guide me, and I'm willing to go within the framework you say, like, really not do the things you told me not to, and do what you say, like, I should do, and then see how you fulfill it, and how you, and I mean, if I'm just thinking about this dream, for example, to go abroad one day to all the jungles and, I don't know, just have an adventurous life, I could have never achieved for myself to the level that I live now. Like, the number of countries, the places I went to, I guess even if I just took it all into my hands, I started working very early, working really hard, I don't know, doing humanly everything I can, I don't think it would have ever happened to this degree. Like, and either if I just say, okay, God, you let it happen, but I still want to have my own way. Like, I don't know, I want to live on loans, and I want to sleep with this guy and that guy, and if I have to, like, alter the truth, you know, practically lie, then I'll do it, because I need to find my way there, I need connections and some money to make it happen. But I don't think it, and also, even if it happened, it wouldn't have fulfilled my heart, because it would be like that burden, like, okay, well, what did I do? What did I sacrifice for this? Or, like, in a wrong way, like my morality or my integrity. And at the end, I'm there, but what can I give to the people? Like, that was my main desire, that I would benefit them. But what do I give them if I'm just made my way there in my own way? But so that's really interesting also.
Yeah, I think whenever you tell people just to do something because either you said so or other people said so, like, it makes them uncomfortable. So for me, it's like the best way to get uncomfortable in doing that is you look at, let's say if you have parents and like, just do what I say. It can be hard if you're the only child, but let's say if you have older kids and it's like they're doing really well in life, it's like, well, your parents told them what to do, they listened, and it turned out well. And then if you have another sibling that didn't do what they said and they're doing terrible, then it's easy for you to go, oh, I should maybe listen. So I think a lot of people think the Bible is just like rules, and the thing that helped me was looking at it as like, okay, people are saying to just listen to God, like, let me go find the stories that are proof of that. And there's a ton of stories of people that listened that did good things, and there's a ton of stories of people in nations that didn't, and there's bad things. So in my mind, I'm like, either I can just basically be an idiot, because you have the the proof or the documentation that they didn't listen, this bad thing happened. So you can take a risk and say, hey, I think that's just for them. I'm going to do my own thing, see what happens. And then when something bad happens, you're like, well, there's no God. He doesn't care about me. Why does God let bad things happen? Or take those as an example and say, whenever people listen and they follow to God, like great things happen. Why don't I just try to do that and see what happens? And then whenever I did that and I saw what happened, like good things happened. So it's like, why would I don't even want to test this part right here. Like, let me just keep listening and doing more things. So that's where I think for most people, I tell them, like, don't think about the religion and doing all that type of stuff. Just look at the stories of how people listen. And a lot of times those people aren't really religious. It's just like you're in the wilderness and there's like a burning bush or something. And he just tells you to do something. He doesn't say, do all this religious stuff. It's like, I'm just asking you to be obedient in this thing. So look at those stories and then just try to listen for what God is telling you to do, and then just do it, and then see what happens. I feel like for most people, and it's not just like, well, let me see what happens. It's like, no, you gotta like commit to the thing. So if he's telling you to go to India next month, there's not a let me try and see what happens. It's like, you gotta go and commit, and then see what happens. And I think 99 or even 100% of the time, it ends up better than what you expected, especially if you give it enough time to look back on it. But when you don't, then you can probably look back on your life and see, most of the time I just try to do it on my own. Like, I didn't end up happy. So that's why I'm like, just try it. It's just a different way, you know? Maybe you don't listen to your parents and you're always getting hurt or something. Maybe you should listen to them and see what happens.
Yeah. It's, of course, there's always a balance of like trusting God that it would happen and doing my part. Like, even like going for India, of course, I didn't expect God to drop the ticket on me. I had to go and search out and like pay it and like research things and communicate. And I mean, all those things were there. But if I don't trust God that he can make it happen, I just try to do it on my own, I would get frustrated all the time. And if something doesn't, like, things don't work out one after another, I would just give it up. Because I mean, it's I put effort, it didn't pay back, so what's the point of investing any more in it? But if I'm convinced that God cares to fulfill this, and I have the conviction that this particular thing is from God, then it gives me so much strength to just go through all the challenges also, and like not to be discouraged at the things that didn't work out, or something that, like, for example, like just 2 months or last month we went with your wife to India, right? So there was an issue with one of her tickets, like over and over again. Like, we couldn't pay it, then they canceled the flight, and like all those things. And if it's just human, you would be like, whatever, okay, then we'll go to another town, or
just not go at all.
Just not go at all. Like, it just doesn't work, and so frustrated. But because we knew, like, so convinced that this dream is from God, he cares, and then like we really feel like we need to go to those places because it's something like connected to what God has put on our heart, and connect like some of the things, like even what she has, like talents and abilities and things that she can do well, it would work very well in that location. So we were like, okay, like, first of all, like, just God, what shall we do? Like, not with like, why did you allow this, but like, help us to understand what should we do in this situation. And you know, at the end of the day, I mean, it took arrangements and took sometimes just waiting on what will happen. And at the end, we got back money and went cheaper,
right,
because the airline canceled the flight that we took so long to book. And then we were able to get full refund for that. And the other flight that we were able to book somehow got the price down. And we went for a cheaper ticket eventually and had no issue with those flights at all. And we ended up with extra money that we could use for other things. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we just trusted him and it worked out better than we expected. So it's really amazing.
Yeah, I think that's usually the case. I think you believe it no matter what. So it's like if the flights get canceled and you don't go, oh, God doesn't care about my dream. It's like, oh, there's like a reason why I'm not going. Like, he wants me to do something else. But then if it's taking forever, it's like there's a reason. Like, maybe the plane was going to crash. That's why I always just think, like, he cares about me so much that he's like, if something bad is going to happen, he's going to put this in the way or that in the way. Like, and then I just have to give it enough time for it to make sense. Because some, like, I don't know, I guess you just never know. Like, maybe you have to stay at a place like Lauren did, like 3 days, because it took so long for them to get the flights together. Maybe 3 years from now, you're meet someone that's like going through depression or at the airport because their flight is taking forever, and then you can talk to them about, well, you didn't come. Like, you never know, like, the situation. That's why it's like, if you just believe that God is working everything out, even if that's not true, it's at least a less stressful life. Because if you feel like God doesn't care and nothing is going right, even if that's true for you, what's the benefit? Like, you're just going to always be stressed. Yeah. So I'm like, it's actually better to just listen to God, believe what he's doing, and trust in him. And maybe it's not going to work out, but at least you live your life believing it, and you're happy and you're fulfilled, than to think God doesn't care about me, the world is terrible, everyone's out to get me, and just being depressed. It's like, what's the point? It doesn't do you any good. Even
are you any happier? Yeah. I mean, and besides just the general thing of like being patient and believing in the best, which like sometimes people do, like without the person of God, just like, come on, be positive, like trust that it will go well. For me, what's more than that is like knowing God, like his person, like just like you, like if I have an issue, something connected to what you're really good at, then I would come to you and ask you like, okay, wait, Dee, what do you think? Like, how should I resolve this, or how should I go ahead with this? Like, what would be the best? And you would tell me. It's not just like, well, let's hope it will turn out the best. Yeah. But it's like knowing him and inquiring him, and actually Bible is full of stories like that, when people went to God and like, God, this is what's going on, or this is what we are facing, what should we do? And God tell them, and very often he told them like very weird answers. I mean, things that are like humanly don't make sense, or things just like wait or go ahead, like sometimes just was like yes or no, like should we do or not do, and God was like do it or don't do it, and they just didn't ask questions, they didn't complain, they're like okay, and they did what he said, and then it turned out so well, or he gave them a strategy that would have never come to their mind humanly, because it's like, for example, like in a battle, that's a completely non-military advice, and this is what God told them, and they just did it and it worked. It's like this personal element that I can go to him, ask him, and he wants to talk to me. He wants to give me strategy. He wants to give me guidance. And of course, if I choose to let him have his way, like I'm gonna trust him and I'm gonna do it, and not just take it as like, okay, that's God's advice. What's your advice? What's his advice? What do I think? But like, okay, I already decided like he's the driver of my car. He's my king and my God. So I gonna just do that. It's like so much more like to rely on that he told me, not just rely on like, well, I just gonna believe generally in the positive, in the best, because let's be honest, like the world is crazy around us. Like we can't just trust that best thing will always turn out. No, generally the best thing will not turn out. Like things are not really getting better. And sometimes they are, and we just have to wait it out. But many times if we don't have like his actual like message or direction to us, like to trust in, then it's like 50-50. It's like, okay, you can believe in the best, but 50 chance or more that it will not work.
I think you're just not as fulfilled. I think it's not even necessarily that thing will or won't work. Like you have people that are like touching crystals and lighting up sage and reading tarot cards, and like they do have success. I mean, you look at people on TV, they have success, and I know people that make millions of dollars or have the dream car or whatever, but it's like they're not fulfilled, they're not happy, and sometimes we're only looking at one piece of their life, like, oh, but this person, like when traveling the world, or this person has money, or this person has this. When you talk to them and you look at their entire life, it's usually not that good. It's like they're having, like the billionaires, they have a lot of money, but then like their family is terrible or their health is terrible. Like they don't have like an overall fulfilled life. So I think it's not necessarily about just achieving the goals. You can definitely do stuff without God, like people do it all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like, how will you feel about yourself, and how will the rest of your life look like, and like, what's the purpose that you have, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the difference, because there's other methods of doing stuff. I mean, people do magic and all this type of stuff, but when you talk to those people, normally they're not like happy or fulfilled, or eventually that stuff wears off and they start getting depressed and they don't know what's going on. And then when they've rubbed on every crystal and they've done everything that they could do, it's like, what else do I do? And then that's when they're like, nothing works. So I think it's, yes, with God you'll be able to achieve the goals, but also you'll feel more fulfilled and have like a more complete life. I feel like, based on the people I've talked to that do and don't.
Yeah, yeah. And even when things don't work out, or not at that time, like for me, it's like, even when I think back of those days when something I was really hoping for, or I really thought was like a good thing, and I was going for it, and it just didn't work out, a relationship or a plan or anything like that, or financially, it's like that stage when it's like, okay, like what I hoped, what I really wanted didn't work out. What do I do now? Like, who I am, and what do I lean on now? And that, for me, and when I look back at those moments, I feel like that's when I got like the most closely connected with God. Like when I just have to come back to Him, and it's like, I don't understand, and I feel broken, I feel crushed, I feel like disappointed and stuff like that, or even broke or something. And I just gonna trust you, like not just trust you to fulfill these things or those things, but generally that overall I'm fine, I'm still fine. Like I don't need to give up on life, I don't need to like burn up bridges behind me. I'm okay. Like I trust you that all together you're guiding me by my hand, and it's gonna be fine. And it always turns out like, for me, like with those situations, like there are those dark seasons, but I just feel like going through a dark tunnel with like hand in hand with God, like, and that's like, even for small kids, like actually it's crazy, they are not afraid, the little kids, like if daddy or mommy is around, they're good, like they're not afraid of things that we are afraid, like, they don't care if you hold their hand, they're good. Because they know the mom and dad like can do anything and they are safe. So the same way for me, it's like, okay, I hold his hand. Like I know he is good, and I know he is almighty. Like he's above these small issues I have, and he has a way to fix me, to fix my situation, fix my heart and stuff like that. And that like sustains me in a long way. Like at those moments I don't get into drugs or other destructive things, because right now it's like my plans are not being fulfilled, because I'm still have this stable thing with him, and that helps in the long term, like whatever you want to achieve. Also, if you have these seasons when you like get into drugs or I don't know, other destructive things, and then you need to take so long to just even come out of that and then go for the next thing. But it's like, okay, I just go through the dark season, it's like difficult, I'm quiet, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still at peace, I'm still like fine with him. And then the moment I see something new or what he gives me, then I can just go for it, because I'm healthy, I'm fine, I'm okay. So that's something different too.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure.
Yeah, so we again just want to encourage you guys, like even in this Christmas season or whenever you watch this video, like even just think through like what are some things that like dreams or desires you always had, or something that keeps coming back to you, and just give a chance to God and say, like, even if you never talked to God before, or you were disappointed before, or you are walking with him, and just say like, okay God, I mean, these are the things that I have for myself, or I desire, and I hand it over to you. Like, you highlight for me what is really from you, and just help me let go of whatever is my own stuff, and guide me to my best that comes from you. And I trust you that you have a good plan for me, and I'm excited because you like just believe that he doesn't, he didn't create you for a boring life, for a boring life,
average.
you know, yeah. And he actually, Jesus was, you know, more upset with the super religious people who were like so particular to keep every single little law and dress like, speak like, look like, everything just perfect. He was much more upset with them than those who were clearly living in sin but had a desire to just follow him, and then they changed like this. You know, they were willing to let go of all those things because they realized Jesus is interested in them. And those people who were the super religious, they are like, no, I'm a good person, like don't talk to me, or like don't give me your things, I'm perfect. And they lived a boring, rigid, hopeless life. And other people, they fulfilled their life and became like, they had an incredible life because they could just throw behind themselves like all those things that defined them before, because like Jesus is interested in me, he cares, and he offers me like a great hope and future, and he does. Yeah, so I think that's for you guys for today, and we're looking forward for the next episode, and even for your questions, like what questions came up in you, even like listening to this, or just anything else that you want to ask Christians who really live with God, or who care about what the Bible says and want to live like that. Like what questions do you have about God or the Bible or the lives of Christians, or just anything you want to ask, even a personal question. So we're gonna attach a form, and you could just fill it out, and you can get in touch with us, and we would be happy to have you on the show, or at least your question, answer it. So have a great day, everyone. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.